gonna start because I can see it much better. I'm gonna cut this out anyways. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna go over to the 15-minute. Like I said, we have to be really quick. Like yesterday, I unfortunately took a loss because I thought after ES swept the highs, we would go back down. With NQ, I thought we would build an SMT, a pretty good one actually. We ended up not doing that, even though we still have an SMT. So I gotta mark the points right now like I always do. I also mark 10 a.m. It's not like a really super important area because the market is already open and the main movement is going to be at 9:30, but I still mark 10 because there can still be some volume at the full time. So we took out these highs, these liquidities. We still have liquidity obviously over here, and right now I actually want to check where the sweep was. So on the left I have MNQ, on the right I have MES. Liquidity sweep yesterday. This high, and that's not one, this one, right? ES took it out, NQ still didn't, and we have pressure. Definitely building up. We also have not an 8 a.m. EST, like a London fair value gap. That doesn't happen that often. Yeah, 2 minutes out. So what I would say, what usually would happen, like we have really choppy movement, usually what price does, first of all, it's good that price took out Tokyo low, which is right there. Also gonna copy paste this just so I can, so the Tokyo template, we have taken out the Tokyo low, but the more important thing, more important than that is that, okay, we have no SMT, that London swept. It's more important that London swept Tokyo. We also have a big fair value gap here, an imbalance. I can definitely see that. Well, this one we almost already inversed, and this one, because in my opinion ES is always a bit stronger than NQ. From experience, I would say it's mostly the case. Like even when NQ does something and ES does the opposite, usually what happens is whatever ES does. And at the moment there isn't really a gap right here. There's a big one over here. There is one here. That's interesting. So we definitely reversed. We have a shift of structure, not on NQ, only on ES. But that also means that price probably is gonna continue like that. Let's go on the 5 minute. This is a 15-minute gap. I'm gonna mark that up really quickly. Just gonna write 15-minute in there. Same thing over here. Usually gaps are much more respected on ES than on NQ. Again, speaking from my experience from trading, even when NQ breaks a fair value gap or doesn't, it's more important whether ES respects it or breaks it. So in this case, for example, we can see that on the 5 minute, NQ is very bullish. We're not even going to London low. Usually, what I do in most cases is trade toward London low, which will also make sense in this case because London has liquidity. If we take out London liquidity, that gives us buying opportunity towards the upside. But it's also important to notice that we broke a 15-minute gap in 15-minute selling gap. And that's usually a sign that we are going to continue bullish, even though price obviously didn't yet take out the lows. We took out a high right now on NQ. You could technically say it's an SMT because those are both the same highs. So on the 5 minute, I don't think it's the it is the 15 minute as well, maybe in the 30 minute, but I don't really look at the 30 minute usually. Now it depends. It 100% depends on whether ES wants to turn around or not. If ES doesn't turn around, NQ is going to continue as well. We can look at this 1 minute gap. This may be an indicator. If there are going to be 3 scenarios. First is that ES doesn't touch it at all, meaning it just breaks through, then that's not really an entry. 2, it goes into it, respects it, and goes further, which probably means that ES is gonna wanna take out this high, or it breaks it, which could lead to NQ also reversing. Even though it's a 1 minute gap, the gaps from what I've seen, especially on ES, mean a lot. Even the 1 minute gaps. Obviously a 15 minute gap is immensely stronger than a 1 minute gap, but it's an opportunity to scale down on a very small frame. So yeah, one of these 3 is gonna happen most definitely. And PA on NQ, you can see we touched a high and then we have rejection, usually indicating that price is more likely to draw downward like this. We have a whole lot of rejection over here. Price doesn't want to go higher, but it's also important to look at ES because we can go short on NQ if ES is still bullish, because maybe ES wants to take out the high, then go to London liquidity, or when ES completely reverses, that could mean that we want to take London low liquidity. And then there's also again 2 opportunities: either we trade toward London low liquidity to take a short toward liquidity, or we wait until liquidity is taken, then take a long, which is the most likely scenario from that. Like I just said, price reverses, we even break this 1 minute gap, but like I said, it doesn't mean too much on NQ. It means more on ES, because as you can see, NQ completely ripped through that 1 minute gap, and ES only touching into it, and now it's going higher. So it depends on how this candle is going to close. If we're going to have a bullish close on this candle, it's probably likely that ES respects the gap and we're going to go high, but then there's not really a trade. Here we have complete rejection of this going lower. So we did go lower, what I suspected, but the gap is, at the moment at least, being respected, and there is not really a point in going long here because NQ is rejecting the high and ES is kind of playing around. There's not really a big strong candle except for the 930 candle up until now, and only this rejection hammer candle, which this on its own would suggest that price most definitely is gonna break higher, and I suppose most people could take like a long from here, 40 points, that's a lot. But as you can see, when price again reaches this level that it rejected in the past, even just a couple minutes ago, a couple of seconds, it's usually gonna go back again. Either it's gonna completely reverse and you were completely wrong, or you're only gonna get wigged out and then price eventually goes higher. But this is like an area we don't really want to touch, or I personally really don't want to touch right now. I'm also guessing not very many people are gonna watch this video, but if you see this very scene, give me some comments on what you think about my approach on trading. Like I said, would have completely been stopped out because it doesn't make sense to enter a trade there. So that's, we want to avoid over trading and being in the market too long. It's 15:30 right here in my time zone. It's 9:30 in New York, obviously, so I have a lot more time to prepare and can work early in the day. So we saw kind of a movement of the gap, even though it's a 1 minute on ES. Now it still depends on whether we break it, and furthermore, what's actually more important now, I don't seem to be able to, no. There's a 5-minute gap now here. Obviously a 5-minute gap is even stronger than a 1-minute gap. So I'm 99% sure the price is gonna reverse into that gap regardless of anything. That's usually what price does. So you could say like 90% on a 15-minute gap. It's usually 99.9% that price is gonna reverse in there on ES. And a 5-minute, it could be that it doesn't. At 1 minute, it usually also does, but it doesn't have to. Again, 1 minutes are, I would say, like 70%, but the 5-minute, yeah, like 80-90%, something in that area. The price is gonna return into that gap with like a red arrow. So if we look at the same level on NQ, we are in the gap already, but as we saw earlier from the 1 minute, price could technically obliterate this gap, but if it doesn't on ES, it could still reverse. There's also liquidity down there, technically a level we could want to grab. I'm gonna say it's a BOHL. That means break of high or low. It's not a break of structure, especially in the higher time frame. I mean, in this case it would be on the 5-minute, but it's like a break of structure on the 5-minute doesn't mean anything when there's a gap and liquidity and everything. So I'm just naming it BOHL, break of high or low, which is an indicator that price could potentially go there. It's not really a super important level like strong liquidity, but still like a level I want to watch to either set take profits or like an area I want price to reach to consider an entry, something like that. But I mean, price is going good. Like I said, ES is retracing in the gap. NQ already broke the gap. Funny thing is, in my opinion, and it would be really cool if anyone hears that, because I'd like to know your opinion. From my experience, I mean, ES and NQ, they move very similarly, but NQ is always or mostly in front of ES, right? But the thing is, regardless of that, ES is still the one that holds the power. So even though NQ is, for example, further down than ES, and ES is heading down, which means NQ is heading down, ES is still the stronger thing. So if ES reverses, even though NQ is far lower and maybe indicating that it wants to go even lower and it has a broken structure and whatnot, when ES does something, it usually means NQ does the same thing, even though NQ always or mostly rushes ES. And in reverse, when NQ does something, usually that's not what ES does. Like, I mean, it could be, but it's unlikely that NQ follows ES. It's more likely that, no, it's more likely that NQ follows ES. It's less likely that ES follows NQ, right? From what I've seen. For example, in this, you could have seen, okay, maybe NQ could have broken the 5-minute gap. It probably did in 1 minute. Yeah, it did. So you could have seen an entry here, bearish. Kind of would have made sense, at least a little bit, towards this low, right? But ES was behind, tapped into the gap and respected it for now. Also, we have really shitty price action on the 1 minute. I mean, the 5 minute is okay though. It's not too shabby. We're kind of respecting the SMT right now. It's not a good SMT. But yeah, so from what I see now, it's more likely that since we respected the gap, or we will in 1 minute, it's more likely that price actually goes higher and at least takes this high. Problem is, we still have this thing where usually if NQ reaches this high, we would get manipulation then. But we're breaking this. We broke, right now. We broke this 15-minute gap on ES. We kind of wanted to respect it down here, but we didn't. We respected the 5-minute gap. We kind of respected the 1-minute gap. We were breaking further. Broke through it on NQ, this manipulation area. So it's like I mean, how many points do we have here? 3 points. Like, that's not that much. But like I said, since this leads, technically you could enter a trade like this. It's 20 points. It's not too much. It's not the perfect entry. It is an entry. It's probably a win. Like, if I look at this, we're not gonna take the trade, but just to play around a little bit, like 5 point stop loss, could be taken out by noise. That's why I'm not entering. I could, but I'm not going to. Because there's still gaps down here now that are created by pushing so out. For example, this one. Although we could get a good trade if we respected this gap. But like I said, we have like a 70% chance that yes, in this case, like 70% that it takes it, but in this case, because it's already so far up, that we just ignore it and maybe build a higher time frame gap. Next level would be this. Yeah, we took it, so we're probably also gonna take this. Let's also go back over here. That's actually most likely. We took both highs, so we don't have an SMT anymore. For the ones that thought this was going to be an SMT, I didn't think so. So this high is this one, which we already took, and then we have to have one like further, this one. Yeah, that's like okay, never mind. It's like the one from yesterday. It's a bit weird. Now the question is, because this technically could be in trade, we, in my experience, probably won't get a reaction of like this high. See this trade, like the mini trade, 20 points. It would have been a win in this case. It's not always, so I don't recommend really focusing on trades like these, like before price is at liquidity and then you take a trade that it takes liquidity. It's like it technically makes more sense and could be a win, but then even though your general idea is right, you could get a lot of noise. For example, now we swapped liquidity on both ES and on NQ, and we're getting a reaction, which is also normal. Like I wouldn't see how price would just push through that. We're definitely getting orders in the opposite direction, especially take profits from lower trades. I would even assume that price probably is going to push into this gap, but it's also not a trade. Like that's like a trade has less chance of being a win when you trade towards a setup and not like off of the setup. Only my problem is actually getting good entries, which is why I'm doing all of this and trying to get more profitable / profitable at all. Because like you could have technically traded towards this gap, because it technically would have made sense for price to not take it, but we didn't. We would have definitely gotten stopped out. Now the question is, will we take this high? I'm sorry. Will we take this high on NQ? Because we will probably take it on ES. It's not marked perfectly. It's annoying. Doesn't really matter though. This one is right there. Yeah, we will. Because we don't want this. Like that ES is behind for so much. But it's interesting, or I am very, very interested in what price does now. Because now we got that high, we don't really get a draw on liquidity except on this one, like that big one. Or maybe a really big gap. That I did not want to do. Yeah, we do. We could react off of this gap. It's like you couldn't take a trade with that thing today. It's too much. Although, technically, and now it's getting interesting in whether am I gonna take a trade or not this high. I actually think so. Because it does make sense. Okay, we're gonna close this in 4 minutes, and then we're gonna have a gap here, and that is going to be an opportunity to go bullish towards this high. Except we're not really gonna get an entry if price just pushes through that. Gonna get a 1 minute gap. Like I said, price isn't too respecting off of those. So we're gonna watch this. Maybe price breaks that, because then we could have an in off of this gap, but it's like a really long distance. It's 8.5 points. It's a lot of ES, and it's, wait a minute. Yeah, I mean, if that is the same, it's like 70 points on NQ. Unlikely. Doesn't matter though. Okay. It's not bad movement we got here. We broke this gap. Means we could go lower to at least this one. But the 5 minute one, the one we actually want, is only gonna be here in 2 minutes. Which could give us a buying opportunity towards this high. And we can also calculate how many that's gonna be. It's gonna be 75 points, let's say a buffer, let's say 65 points times 20 by 4, because if I'm not wrong, and I don't know why I have 1/10. Okay. So we're gonna have, that was actually wrong, it's, let's say, gonna be 65 points times 20 divided by 10. So, not too much. Although we could do 10. It's like a 750 trade and a 1300 trade. I would say this trade, if I take it, has like a 70% chance of hitting. But the in is not yet. And we have to definitely see how we place it. Technically, we only want to lose 250 per day, and 250 divided by 20 would be 12.5 points. It's like what we maximum want to lose at this. I mean, 12.5 point stop loss isn't too bad. Close now, boom, now we have that gap that we wanted. So we have a 5 minute here, we have a 1 minute over here. What we want is for price to return into this gap to maybe 50% and then go higher. Usually that's also what price does. Gonna mark it like this. And now it's a lot about waiting and seeing if price does what we want. Also see a lot of sideways movement over here in the last couple of minutes. I always call it manipulation. It's something you don't want to enter. You don't really want to enter sideways movement. Oh, but let's see. Let's see where this goes. We got kind of the same thing going on over here. This we can probably disregard. Yeah, if we don't get an in, that's the way it is. Another thing I have to focus on is not taking trades that are just not the trades I should take. In this case, for an example, I should only take a trade once the setup is hit, not enter right now. It's unfortunate, it's like a really big trade, but that happens to me a lot. Maybe you have something to fix that. I don't know. Maybe gonna wait till halfway. I'm going crazy. Yeah, it doesn't look very manageable anymore. Setups don't really pull, and we don't really want to be in the market too long. Especially today, there's a ton of different stuff I still have to do, so I can't take too long. Thought we were gonna take a trade, but to be honest, I'm gonna take a good example of Powell, which is to actually look for reasons not to trade rather than reasons to trade, because it's better to just not trade when price doesn't just move the way you want to, so you just leave it at that and in turn trade on a good day. A day when price actually moves better, quicker, faster. It did today, it did good, but only in the beginning. And on a good day, a really good day, price continues to move fast, at least until 4, maybe 4:30. So like 9:30, 10, maybe 10:30. But this today it wasn't like that. It moved for like 15 minutes and that's that. Maybe on a higher impact news day. Maybe that's the reason. Also price is like really not reacting. Okay. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna look much further into this. I'm gonna look at it in the evening. Maybe see whether a setup has being created, but this is just really bad PA today, at least starting like 10, somewhat at 10, just not tradable. The entry we drew earlier would have been probably a break even. Like I said, we didn't enter because there's just too much to think about. Look, now we are building a fair value gap, then we go back into it, while there we build another one. That's like shitty PA. Okay, I'll wrap it up for today. I'm gonna continue tomorrow, obviously same thing. And if anyone watched this to the end, I'm really thankful. Thank you very much. And I'd really like to hear your opinion on my opinions and on my trading style. Maybe I'll just put it together on TikTok so anyone can just let me know what you think. I'm gonna post it, and I'm gonna delete it, and I'm gonna have an archive, and that's how I'm gonna improve my trading and get towards my first payout, which is my goal. Well, actually you could say passing the account, but then the first payout. So we'll see everyone tomorrow, and that was day 1.